Welcome back to the third rail. My name is John Teeter, and we're here to talk about the pardon of Hunter Biden. Let me just make sure that I'm streaming live everywhere. All right, looks like we're good. And let's start out by reading the statement from the president. Statement from President Joe Biden. Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Kind of funny how that works, where his Justice Department has been unfairly prosecuting Trump's team and Trump himself, and then he wants to go and say that Hunter is being unfairly targeted. He's being unfairly prosecuted without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser. People are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late in paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then, a carefully negotiated plea deal, agreed to by the Department of Justice, unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair and reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion that Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There's been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system. But as I've wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and president would come to this decision. And then here's the actual pardon. Executive grant of clemency. Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America. To all to whom those presents shall come, greeting. Be it known that this day, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, have granted unto Robert Hunter Biden a full and unconditional pardon for those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2015. 2024, including but not limited to all offenses charged or prosecuted, including any that have resulted in convictions by Special Counsel David C. Weiss in docket number 123 CR 00061 MN in the United States District Court for the District of Delaware, and docket number 223 CR 00599 MCS1 in the United States District Court for the Central District of California. In testimony whereof I have hereunto signed my name and caused the pardon to be recorded with the Department of Justice, done at the City of Washington this first day of December in the year of our Lord 2024, and of the independence of the United States the 249th. So that's a lot to swallow there. And first, let me give my opinion on the dropping of the charges. So, my first issue is that I honestly wanted him to beat those charges. The first charge is a gun violation charge, right? Because he purchased a gun and lied about his drug addiction. Now, if you are a drug addict, you're not allowed to own a firearm or purchase a firearm. And honestly, I think that's wrong. It's a constitutional violation. We have crimes for drugs. If he were to catch a felony for drug crime or commit a crime with the gun, then he should be in trouble. But this charge, it's kind of a violation not only of our Second Amendment rights, but also it's a violation of self-incrimination. It violates our right to self-incrimination because you can't rat yourself out. You can't be forced to tell on yourself for a crime. So that is a violation of our rights. And not only that, but it's also a violation of the Second Amendment. Like I said, the Second Amendment is very clear, shall not be infringed. There are violations that can cause you to lose your Second Amendment right. That's a felony, but he didn't at the time have a felony. So he should have been able to purchase that firearm. He shouldn't have had to tell on himself. And that is why I don't believe that he should even have been charged. And I wanted him to fight it so that those stupid laws could get removed. And basically, the court would have to end those charges, and people from being charged with those things. Now, the second one, I'm a libertarian, so taxes, go to hell with them. Taxation is theft. I'm pro Ron Paul's policy, which is what I'm hoping Trump actually decides to do, which he's been hinting at, which is remove the income tax, go back to how we used to make our money with tariffs and taxes on multinational corporations. And yeah, anytime anyone, whether I like the person or not, gets away with not paying taxes, that's a great thing, in my personal opinion. So I wanted him to not get charged with that, but here's the issue. Now, I'm personally of the view that, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, But personally, I don't think that it's an issue that Biden pardoned his son. Any father would do the same. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. They would definitely pardon their own son. Now, the thing I do take issue with is, what did he pardon? He didn't just pardon the crimes that he was charged with. I don't even know if he can pardon a crime that hasn't been charged. I think that this might get challenged, and I think that Trump is definitely going to use this as, hey, you did this crazy, ridiculous pardon that shouldn't have been done, and so now I'm just going to wholesale pardon all of the January 6th people. I do think he's going to do that. But the issue I take is those dates. Why January 1st, 2014? What is the reason that he needed 11 years worth of pardons for crimes that he didn't get charged with? This also has to make you question Biden's integrity, because he over and over again stated that he wasn't going to pardon his son. He trusts in the judicial system. So if Biden now doesn't trust in the judicial system, then why should Republicans trust in the judicial system when they've obviously been going after? Look, they arrested Roger Stone. They arrested Steve Bannon. Roger Stone got pardoned before Steve Bannon got pardoned, I believe, and then he got charged with other bogus crimes. And so not only did they do that, but they also went after Trump directly. The state of New York went after him. That's not the federal government, but if you think that that wasn't at the behest of the federal government, then you're probably a crazy person. He definitely got charged in New York. They tried to take him off the ballot in Colorado. And then they ruled that they couldn't charge him because they'd have to first convict him of insurrection, and then they could remove him from the ballot if he got charged with that. But that didn't go through. They said that anything he did while under the power of the president, in service of the office, that was the Supreme Court that ruled this, he couldn't be charged for it. So there you go. He's good to go. New York dropped the charges for now. We don't know if they're going to prosecute him after he leaves office. That's yet to be seen. But it looks like they're going to fully just drop the charges. Now, if Trump hadn't won the popular vote, they probably still would have gone after him for those charges once he left office. But since he won the popular vote, that gives him the popular mandate. And he didn't just win the popular vote, but they won the Senate, they won the House, they won everything. And it wasn't even close this time. So because of that, I don't foresee New York continuing with their BS charges. But what we do need to look at is Hunter Biden. Now, this time frame, what is Biden trying to protect? Well, they tried to bury the laptop. The FBI went to all of the social media heads and told them, this story is Russian disinformation, it would be in your best interest not to allow this to propagate on your platforms. Mark Zuckerberg told Joe Rogan this. We know from the Twitter files that Twitter was being directed to also do the same, that the feds had pipelines into not just Twitter, but all social media where they could go in and make their own deletions. Or, well, I don't think they could directly delete, but they could flag things for deletion. And we also know that the laptop has now been confirmed as real. So what was on the laptop? Well, aside from all the weird stuff, like the child harm stuff and all the drug use, which, again, I'm a libertarian. You want to smoke all the crack in the world, as long as you don't go and hurt someone else, I really don't care. Drugs don't bother me. Let's first look at what the actual tax evasion charges were, because this is a pretty serious one. Even though I'm against taxation, I'm sure most of you guys are not. So let's look at that. So the tax evasion, he was charged for 3 felony counts of tax evasion and filing false returns, along with 6 misdemeanor counts related to failing to pay the taxes. The charges were from a period from 2016 to 2019, in which Biden allegedly earned over $7 million from various international business ventures, while failing to pay at least $1.4 million in federal taxes, which it's kind of odd that he only would pay $1.4 million on $7 million, because typically when you're in that bracket, you're paying at least like 40%. So how did he get around all that? Who knows? But I guess that's why he was charged for filing false returns. And the prosecutors accused him of spending nearly $5 million on personal expenses instead of paying his taxes, despite having the means to do so. Now, what did he spend them on? Well, his tax evasion case involved allegations of disguising personal expenses as business deductions to reduce his taxable income. He was accused of spending nearly $5 million on personal luxuries while not paying the taxes. Now, some of these luxuries are rent for multiple residences. Now, if you have a home office that you live, you're allowed to use a portion of that rent as a tax deduction if it's a home office. But if you have multiple residences, I don't think you can get away with that one. The government likes to get their tax money. So what else? Luxury car rentals, luxury car purchases, hotel stays. The hotel stays one is rather interesting. Let me sec. It was like a ridiculous sum of money. I'm getting there. One sec. I just got to get to my notes. He paid got the story up here. So he paid $43,000, almost $44,000, to pay at Chateau Marmont in West Hollywood. He paid $30,000 for his daughter's tuition at Columbia Law School. I don't know how you declare that as a business expense, but there you go. $11,500 for 2 nights with an escort. That's not really a business expense now, is it? He also, stupid ad came up. $3,947 at a strip club. So basically more escorts. He paid $1,727 for a Lamborghini rental. $275 for dinner at Nobu. The Lamborghini rental and the dinner at Nobu technically could be business expenses. Nobu's pretty expensive. That was probably him going solo at $275 if I had to guess. So that one probably is not. But Lamborghini, you want to drive around some high-end client and you want to impress. That's, not reasonable, but it could be believable. But the escorts and the strip club and the almost $44,000 to stay at a hotel and the $30,000 for his daughter's tuition while not paying the taxes that you owe. And this is just what CNN is reporting, because we all know CNN is completely unbiased, right? They report he had all this money to spend on everything but his taxes, as the prosecutors put it. And he got that money from lucrative deals in China, Ukraine, and Romania, amongst other places, where he earned more than $7 million. I mean, I want to know how a literal crackhead, earns $7 million over the course of 4 years, because I think I got to start doing crack if that's the case. But Hunter pled guilty to 2 misdemeanors for failing to pay the taxes from 2017 and 18. He owed, again, I don't know how it's only $1.2 million, but somehow it's only $1.2 million. And after the deal collapsed, the 2 charges were included in the 9-count indictment that he was then facing. This was written before, so at the time he was facing them. Now it's obviously not happening. But he spent a whole lot of money on a whole lot of things that most likely definitely weren't business expenses, and he pled guilty to them. Now, if you defraud the federal government out of over $1 million, I'm pretty sure that they're going to felony charge you for that. I don't know. I can't guarantee, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, what did Wesley Snipes get? Let's see. He got 28 months in prison for failure to file income tax returns. So he didn't even file his tax returns. Let's see, how much did he owe? He owed $5 million. He was sentenced to 3 years, but I guess he got out early. But he owed was fined $5 million. I wonder how much he owed. Let's see from Reuters. Let's see. How much Types O in taxes. He owed $23.5 million. Now, the gun charge, even though again, I wanted him to fight it and I wanted him to win. The gun charge, get back to my notes. On the gun charges, he made false statements to a federally licensed firearms dealer. So that's a federal crime. In California, it is extreme, which is where this took place. He was definitely breaking the law. California is a state that does not like guns. And so if you get charged with something on guns, they are not going to be lenient in California. But he bought a Colt Cobra 38 Special, kind of a weak gun. I would have thought he would have been more of a 45 guy, but all right. And a revolver at that. In October 2018, he basically lied about being on drugs. He illegally possessed the firearm as a drug user. That's definitely a felony in California. And his offenses had a potential maximum sentence of 25 years in prison and up to $750,000. But as a first-time offender, he was unlikely to receive the maximum penalty. He would have not received the maximum penalty, but that would have been at least 5 years. That's definitely a felony. And yep, he's definitely just living the life free of accountability. I totally agree. It must be nice. I mean, when your dad is the president, you're not gonna, rules for thee, but not for me. You're not gonna suffer any of the consequences of your actions, one way or another. Either getting a pardon, having the money to have the best lawyers and get off the case, whatever it is. But now, why was the other part? This is the part that makes me mad. And I don't think you can pardon a crime that hasn't happened. Or not that hasn't happened, but that hasn't been charged. I don't. Let me do a quick search on that actually, because I'm curious. And you be pardoned for crime that hasn't been investigated yet. Using a site called Perplexity, which is a very great AI-powered search. I would highly recommend it. Not a sponsor, but I use it for a lot of my research. It is a little biased because the models that they use are biased, but you can find a lot. Site sources. Let's see. What does Perplexity say? I'm using the Grok model because it's the least biased out of all of them. Alright, it says that they can be pardoned for offenses that have not yet been investigated or indicted as long as the crime was committed to prior issuance of the pardon. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution grants the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. The Supreme Court has recognized this broad pardon power as far back as 1866, noting that the president can exercise this authority at any time after the crime is committed, either before legal proceedings are initiated or during their presidency, or after conviction and judgment, which is weird because Hunter had 4 hours. There were a bunch of funny memes about Hunter going wild, smoking a bunch of crack, and having big coke parties. I'm sure you guys all saw the memes, but he got pardoned for 4 hours in advance. That hadn't happened yet in his pardon, so that part wasn't legal according to this. So then it goes and shows a bunch of examples of presidents using their power to pardon. All right, so he can pardon it, but here's the thing. The things he pardoned that hadn't yet been tried, convicted, or even fully investigated is the stuff from the laptop. Now, what's in the laptop, and why did he only pardon back to that one date? That's a weird one. But, so, what's in the laptop? Well, in the laptop, so Biden used his dad's position of power to negotiate deals in foreign countries, peddling influence and securing jobs with the likes of Burisma, and in China he did a deal with CEFC, China Energy. So let's start from the beginning of this. It started, so Hunter Biden flew with his dad to China at the very end of 2013. So December 2013 I had pulled up the exact dates. Hold on a sec. I can't find it right now, but oh yeah, December 2nd to the 5th he was there. So I'm sure that's where he orchestrated the deal. And then the deal. So in 2013, Hunter, along with a business associate and Chinese investors, agreed to create BHR, Bohai Harvest RST, an investment fund controlled by the Bank of China. Now, why is Hunter flying with his dad to China to create a business that is controlled by the Bank of China, which in effect means it's controlled by the Communist Chinese Party? So following his business trip to China with Hunter, following Biden's visit to China with Hunter in 2013, BHR's business license was approved and Hunter became a board member. He held an unpaid position on the board while his father was in office and became a shareholder with 10% stake in the company in October 2017. So the business dealing started at the very end of 2013. Nothing happened until earlier in early 2014, when the business got its license, the Bank of China controlled it, and then he, in 2017, became a shareholder in this Chinese company that he started. Now, CEFC China, in 2017, Hunter Biden was promised $1 million in 2017 from a deal with CEFC associate State Energy HK, a Hong Kong business, which, if you know, Hong Kong is back in the control of China. They have been for a while. Now they've had kind of autonomy, but not really. But they're still part of China. I think it was in the early 2000s when the UK lost their contract expired to basically rule over Hong Kong. So that started in 2015, and he was promised $1 million in 2017 from that deal. Then in 2017, Hunter Biden demanded payment from a Chinese Communist Party-linked associate, Raymond Zhao, claiming that his father, Joe Biden, was sitting in the room, and as a result of that, $5 million was wired from a Chinese affiliate of CEFC to Hudson West 3, a joint venture between Hunter Biden and a CEFC associate. This money was then distributed among Biden family members through a series of complicated financial transactions to hide the source of the China money. So, in the laptop, and I believe it was a congressional investigation, or it might have been a Senate investigation, they found that Hunter and his dad, Hunter, who's doing all these foreign business dealings, while his dad is vice president, they shared bank accounts. That's not really legal if you're a businessman to share your business accounts with another person that isn't part of the business. It's not legal. So he strong-armed $5 million out of this Chinese Communist Party-linked associate, using his dad's position of power and telling him, hey, my dad's here in the room, so you better get on it because he's the vice president and he has sway over the president. So in March of 2017, shortly after Joe Biden left public office, a Chinese company, State Energy HK Limited, wired $3 million to a Biden Associates account. Over the next 3 months, the Biden family received approximately $1,065,692. I love how they say approximately, and then they give you like an exact number. Maybe there were some pennies in there, and that's why they say approximately. Who knows? But they received that through different bank accounts. CEFC also created a joint venture with the Bidens in the summer of 2017. So Hunter Biden has been peddling influence, and that's the main reason, in my opinion, that Joe Biden ran, because he knew that Trump was onto him during that election, before he was even a candidate. Trump saw a press conference where Biden said, this was when there was the Attorney General, I guess, of Ukraine was investigating Burisma, and he found that there was some weird dealings. You know, Hunter Biden got this huge paying job in an industry that he had no prior experience in when his dad was the vice president, where he was making, I'm going to look it up, but he was making a lot of money. I believe it was like $200,000 a month or something like that, $1 million per year. This was in 2014. He joined the board of Burisma, and shortly after, Devon Archer, another American, was appointed, and both were paid $1 million a year for their positions. And that's when he was the vice president under Obama, and Trump saw a video clip of Joe Biden, Victor Shokin, was investigating him. That's the AG of their equivalent in Ukraine. And he was investigating him. And so Biden on video was saying, if you don't change the prosecutor, you're not getting the $1 billion. The $1 billion was money that Obama and the Congress had promised to Ukraine already. And so, since they were investigating him, and Biden didn't want his son to get caught up in it, the owner of Burisma was Mykola Zlochevsky, probably butchered that, but he had a confidential informant tell the FBI that he had been coerced into paying Hunter Biden a $5 million bribe. He likes that number, $5 million, huh? And also another $5 million bribe to another Biden, in quotes, to ensure that Victor Shokin would be fired. And Victor Shokin was the one investigating. And then Biden came out and said, hey, you either fire the prosecutor or you don't get the $1 billion. And then he said, and sure enough, hot damn, they fired the prosecutor and they put in someone solid. Let me see if I can find that video. So in 2006, Prosecutor General Victor Shokin and his investigation of corruption involving Burisma. I think that was a typo. I think it was supposed to be 2016, but
yeah. I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, what, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Taking a live look right now at the White House, of course.
So, they fired the prosecutor and they put in someone solid. The prosecutor, who was investigating Burisma and Biden's son and all of those dealings. And so Trump said to, I believe it was Zelensky, that, hey, I need you to find information on this because this is looking kind of crazy. And so they impeached Trump over that. Even though Biden wasn't a presidential candidate at the time, they impeached Trump over that, saying that he was using, he was offering a quid pro quo to Ukraine, which is what Biden was doing. So he was offering a quid pro quo to Ukraine because he was going to withhold money in aid if he didn't give him the information. This was, again, he wasn't investigating a political opponent. Biden was not in the race at the time. If you remember, Biden didn't come into the race until much later, after he found out that Trump was trying to get this information, because he knew that he was going to go down if Trump got the information from Zelensky. So Biden did a quid pro quo, and Trump ended up getting impeached over it, not Biden. And then we all know what happened in the 2020 election. No need to relitigate that. Biden won. Shadow campaign, as discussed as in the article by Time Magazine, the shadow campaign to ensure that we reinforced or secured the election. I don't remember the exact wording, but you guys should look that article up. It's a very fascinating article where they basically admit that they all conspired, media and, the global elites, to keep Trump out of office. And that's just like the stuff they admitted to, because we all know that there's no way that an election it was 94% of the registered voters voted. That doesn't ever happen. It was the highest turnout in the history of elections. And you guys should look up Steven Crowder. He did a good expose on it. I don't think it'll be on YouTube anymore because they probably took it down, but it's definitely on Rumble. Just look up Steven Crowder 2020 voter investigation, something along those lines. It'll come up. Trust me, it's worth a watch. And even if you don't believe Steven Crowder's thing, well, they did this crazy COVID lockdown where they then allowed people to vote, mass mail-in votes, and that's why the numbers were so high. It wasn't so much that let's just pretend that all those people were actual voters and there weren't any fake ballots or, any of the quote unquote conspiracy stuff. Let's just pretend that none of that's real. But they allowed mass mail-in voting. In the case of Pennsylvania, it went against their constitution because the legislature had to pass it for the voting law to be changed. That's their constitution. And then when other states sued them saying, hey, wait a minute, we're being screwed over by this state that's, our vote now doesn't matter because this state violated their own constitution and allowed this change in the rules that wasn't in their own constitution to do so. Well, the Supreme Court didn't have the balls to hear the case because they didn't want to overturn an election, even though they did it for George Bush, which is kind of funny. But for Trump, they didn't want to hear the case. 2 of the Supreme Court justices wrote a dissenting piece because they wanted to hear the case, because they felt, it's an original jurisdiction case, meaning that the Supreme Court is the only court that can hear it, because it's a fight between 2 states. And so Clarence Thomas and Alito, they wanted to hear the case. They're the best justices we have. They're probably the ones that are going to retire under Trump's next presidency because they're getting old, let's face it. And hopefully Trump can find someone even half as good as them too, because those 2 are the best. But they wanted to hear the case. The other justices said, nope, we don't want to do it. We don't have the balls. I mean, the Democrat, the left-wing justices weren't going to want to hear it regardless, but, it was a 6-3 court, allegedly, even though Roberts, while he was a Reagan appointee, he's typically more on the left side. So even at a 5-4 court, you should have heard it, but Trump's 3 appointed justices said no. And so they screwed him over. He didn't get his hearing. Either way, that would have only been Pennsylvania. It might have led to other states being declared, their voting process being declared wrong, unconstitutional. I don't know, but we'll never know because they didn't hear it. Anyhow, they impeached Trump over this. Biden got into the race because he knew that Trump was coming after him and his family, and he couldn't have that. So let's get on to the investigations and the findings. So the Senate did an investigation. It was a Republican-controlled Senate investigation. And they concluded that Hunter Biden cashed in on his father's name to close lucrative business deals around the world. And they said, but you also have to remember, just because someone is a Republican doesn't mean that they're not part of the system. Republicans are, for the most part, just as bad as Democrats. There's a few outliers like Matt Gaetz and Thomas Massie and Rand Paul who are great. Ted Cruz has really been growing on me, even though I never really liked him before. But, you know, with his big tech stuff and the way he grilled Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, that I gained a lot of respect for him, and he did a lot of good. So he's growing on me a little. There's a few others. Kennedy from Louisiana, Chip Roy from Texas. There's some good ones, but for the most part, 90% of them at least, probably closer to 98%, are part of the uniparty establishment. So they don't want to take out Joe Biden. So they said there was no evidence of improper influence or wrongdoing by Joe Biden, even though he shared accounts with Hunter, and Hunter received all this money, and it got filtered to the Biden family, the rest of the Biden family members, but Joe didn't have any wrongdoing, right? Okay. So there was an FBI informant, Alexander Smirnov, who made bribery allegations, was charged with making false statements about the Bidens accepting payments from Burisma, admitting to expressing bias against President Biden. But we already know that they received millions upon millions of dollars from Burisma. That's not disputed. And, you know, the FBI tried to say that the laptop was Russian disinformation because, of course, they want a war with Russia. The Uniparty has wanted a war with Russia since the Cold War. They wanted to make it hot. I mean, Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election cycle gave a speech where she said she would not take any type of action off the table, hinting at nuclear attacks against Russia. But the laptop was proven to be Hunter Biden's laptop. He dropped it off at a shop, and like the crackhead that he is, he forgot about it. And then it became property of the repair shop. And then when he found out what was on the laptop, he contacted, I think it was Rudy Giuliani, but he contacted authorities of some sort. And the laptop has been scrutinized, and they say in the Senate hearing that it didn't prove much, except that it had those emails that said, hey, don't forget the 10% for the big guy. Well, if there's 10% for the big guy, and Hunter Biden had a phone call where he said, I've got my dad right here, and you better send me the money. And they sent him $5 million. then what else could it be? So there's that. And then there's a lot of other things in the laptop, like where he had sex with underage people. I believe there was some incest stuff. A lot of really weird things. The drug stuff, I really don't care. If you want to smoke crack until you go completely insane, that is your problem, not mine. But what's happening now is that Hunter Biden can't be charged with any of these things. Now, here's the thing. I don't think, I could be wrong on this, I don't think that Joe Biden can pardon himself while he's under investigation for something, or pardon himself in the future. Let's see. The president pardon himself. Well, that's pulling up. Yeah, I don't think he can pardon himself, thankfully, but okay, so if he gets impeached, then he can't. If he's not impeached, then he can, I guess. So hopefully they put in an impeachment on him now for this pardon that he just issued. I don't think they will. I don't think the Republicans have the balls to do it. And honestly, Trump made a lot of 47 merchandise. I saw some Democrats joking about it, that Biden should resign and let Kamala take office so that she can be the first female president / female woman of color. I really hate the of color thing. It's kind of, didn't we outlaw, or not outlaw, but didn't we decide that, calling people colored was kind of racist? But I guess it's okay now. But all right, whatever. That's besides the point. But there were some Democrats joking about it, saying that she should declare herself president, or he should resign, she should become president, and then she should pardon him, and then Trump would have to reprint all of his 47 merchandise into 48. I thought that was kind of funny, but it's not off the table. I'm sure that they're thinking about doing it. But yeah, I don't think the Republicans have the balls to impeach him. I don't know why. It's like they let the Democrats run all over Trump, right? But then they don't have the balls to play dirty. And I think it's time for the Republicans to just take the gloves off. And impeaching him isn't really dirty. I mean, the guy's senile. There's the document case, which they didn't say that he shouldn't be charged because there was no evidence or because he didn't do something wrong. They said he shouldn't be charged because he's too senile to stand trial. And to be fair, Kamala should be impeached as well because she's the person with the power to call for the 25th Amendment, which is the vice president can say, hey, the president is not of sound mind and he needs to be put out of office. And then if she would do that, then I believe the Congress votes on it, or maybe the Senate votes on it. I don't remember which. Either way, it would have gotten done. She would have been the president, and she didn't do that. I don't know why she didn't, because she's a power-hungry bitch, but she didn't do that, and she should be impeached as well for not doing it when it's obvious to everyone, including the people who were looking into his documents case, that he is senile and he shouldn't be in power. If he's not of sound mind to stand trial, how the fuck is he of sound mind to be the president and make all these decisions? He's getting us into war with Russia. He's doing everything he can. I swear he listened to that same Destiny stream that I covered, because the crazy one was saying that we should either nuke Russia or send nukes to Ukraine, basically escalate so that it forces Trump to be forced to continue backing Ukraine. And it seems like Biden is doing everything he can to keep this war going and escalate it. So why are we not impeaching him when he's obviously putting us all in danger? There was a Russian sub not far off of the coast of South Florida. I think there was another one even more recently. The one that I first heard about was maybe a year and a half ago, somewhere earlier in the war effort. And then there was another one that I heard about, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. I mean, probably on its way to Cuba, which that should scare us all, because we already almost went to war in the 80s over the Cuban Missile Crisis. Or was it 70s, 80s? I don't remember. But we almost went to war over that. And then here we're playing the same game with Russia that they were trying to play with us. And we're expecting Russia to not react. They want you to believe that Vladimir Putin is an evil genius madman who has no kind of self-control, wants to take over the whole world and make it communist USSR again. And he's a madman, but he's not going to nuke us if we send missiles to Ukraine that can hit Russia, which they already did. They already struck Russia with long-range missiles that we gave them that were authorized to be used by Joe Biden. And we are very lucky that they have not decided to start using nukes. They did use it was basically an ICBM. It was IRBM, which is more like a medium-ranged missile, but they don't really need to use the intercontinental ballistic missile on Ukraine because it's close enough. But it's the same thing. It can hold nukes. It can be equipped as a MIRV. It's a multi something re-entry vehicle, which basically it splits off. You shoot one bomb, one missile, one rocket, whatever you want to call it, and then a bunch of bombs that can be nuclear start dropping off at strategic locations. He used one that is capable of that, and we're not showing enough respect. Not that we should like Putin. That's not what I mean by respect, but respect for their arsenal. They have more nukes than we do, and they have many ways to reach us with them and reach all of Europe with them. And if he's really a madman, or if he's not, and he just feels threatened, like, let's just pretend that Ukraine was winning the war and they started marching into Russia, which it seems like they would be happy to do since they've already attacked Moscow twice. Once a drone that hit, not like a military style, full on jet drone, but smaller drone attack that they sent into the Kremlin. And then now these long range missiles that we gave them. And they also have those, what was it? It's a tank buster, I think they're called, rounds, which are, Russia said that they would, I think they have radiation. They're kind of semi-nuclear. And, Russia warned about that too. Hey, this is an attack on us from you guys. Putin has warned us several times already, and it's not that I think we should back down from bullies, but not when it's not our war. If Russia was attacking us, yeah, we should blow them off the face of the planet, make them pay. But they're not attacking us. They're attacking Ukraine, a country that we're not even aligned with. There was a semi-deal that wasn't really a deal, where it was a verbal agreement that we would protect them since they had to get rid of their nukes, but they didn't even have the money to maintain nukes. Nukes are very expensive to maintain, and they would have ended up just blowing themselves up, unable to maintain them, or selling them to other countries that are not friendly to us. So allegedly there was a verbal agreement that we would protect them from Russia if they disarmed or got rid of their nukes. And I don't think we should be beholden to that deal, because why? Why are we going to protect a country that isn't an ally, that's starting problems? I mean, they didn't start the war, but I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask, because supposedly they were the reason that Putin invaded was because the Ukraine was harming the Russian. There's a group of Russian, genetic ethnic Russians in the east of Ukraine, the parts that Russia has taken over. And I think they were starving them out. I don't remember exactly what. I heard it on Jimmy Dore. You should check him out. Great channel. And he's not on the right at all. He's a pretty far leftist, socialist kind of guy. But he's at least not, blind to what's actually happening in the world. And, he may get things wrong, but everyone gets things wrong, but that doesn't mean he's outright trying to lie about it either. Either way, allegedly they were, I don't know if it was killing or fighting, starving out the Russian ethnic people in the eastern part of Ukraine, but that's supposedly why Putin invaded. So I'm not a Putin simp. I don't think we should be trusting of him, and I don't think that we should be at war with him either. And I think it was very smart what Trump had said. The world would be a better place if we were friends with him. Not that we have to agree with everything he does, but look, we're allied with Saudi Arabia. We're allied with Israel. We're allied with a whole lot of countries that do a whole lot of terrible things, and we can still be on friendly terms with them. So why shouldn't we be on friendly terms with the country that could literally end the world because of how much nuclear arsenal they have? If we went to war with them in nuclear arsenal, Trump has said it, nuclear warming. It's not global warming we need to worry about, it's nuclear warming, and he is absolutely right. If we get into nuclear war with Russia, the whole world is fucked. Take that to the bank. We both have enough weapons to black out the sky probably for a long time. And that's just the weapons we know about. We don't know what other kinds of crazy weapons they have, or we have. We only know what they allow us to know. There could be massive EMP attacks, which would mean, one, I would not be streaming right now if we got EMP attacked. All of the power grid, all of our communications would go down. I don't know if you saw the movie Leave the World Behind, produced by war criminal Barack Obama. But, a lot of these movies, they get consulted by the CIA, or in this case, Obama has his production company where he's executive producing and consulting with the stories. So if anyone knows about things like that, it would be a former president. And that was one of the things that they did. It was a massive EMP attack. The whole grid went out, and than whoever our enemies was. They dropped flyers in several different languages, in several different places to confuse everyone about who the enemy was. And at the end, there's no resolution. We never knew who the bad guy was, except for like the dumb white husband guy. Because, of course, they made the white dumb husband the kind of bad guy. It was a really weird movie. Definitely you should watch it because it allows you to see, one, what they think could happen, or what, if you're more conspiratorial like I am, what they're planning to do. Yeah, it's definitely good to see these kinds of movies with open eyes, knowing that a lot of it is predictive programming, where they're just kind of telling you, hey, this is going to happen eventually, so be prepared. But yeah, we should not be we shouldn't be getting into any wars, because any war can get us into a lot of trouble. Because, okay, let's say we don't get into a war with Russia, we get into a war with another country, and then that country says, hey, we need help, and they go to Russia and make them a deal, or China and make them a deal, and then all of a sudden it's a big world war where no one wins. Everyone loses in a nuclear war. Everyone loses in war in general. We should not be okay with going to war all willy-nilly. If no one's physically invading us, then we should not be at war with anyone. We should not have, it's 287 military bases around the world. Those are the ones that are public that we know about. I'm sure they have tons of black sites and CIA black sites. You know, the intelligence agencies have their tentacles everywhere, but there are, I'm sure, also secret military bases, as well as submarines that are going God knows where and doing God knows what. You know, they blew up the Russian pipeline. I don't know if it was ever confirmed if that was us or Ukraine or some other European country, but it was definitely someone. Russia didn't blow up their own pipeline and screw their own, the Nord Stream 2. They didn't. It wouldn't make economic sense for them to destroy their one pipeline that takes their goods into Europe. So, don't believe what you hear. That's all I gotta say about that, because it's the fog of war. You don't know what's true and what's not true. Our government propagandizes us just as much as other countries send out propaganda. The only thing you can do is see what's actually happening, watch video of live on the ground stuff, and even at that, I use Perplexity AI to do searches. There's AI for video, and it's getting pretty hard to tell nowadays. And that's just the stuff that's publicly available. The U.S. military has access to GPT-5, which isn't even out yet. And they're using it for God knows what. And we don't know how powerful that really is. I'm sure that they probably, U.S. military probably has a fully actualized, uncensored version of it, so it can do military strategy and, weaponry, blueprints, stuff like that. We don't know. And with AI video, if it's not already, it's gonna be very hard to tell what's real in the very near future, because even with the stuff we have right now, you can make some really, if you have the patience to sit there and continue to regenerate your videos, you can make stuff that is completely, eventually, after enough retries, that is completely indistinguishable from real. And eventually it's just going to all look that way. So don't believe what you see, don't believe what you hear, and keep your eyes open. And that's it for now. Hunter Biden, he's free, man. His crimes will never go punished, and hopefully they'll get Biden. That's all for now. In the next video, sometime in the next week or two, I'm hoping to get it out this week. I'm doing a lot of research. I'm trying to wait until Trump makes all his selections. There's rumors now that he's going to replace Pete Hegseth because of some of his issues that he's having with scrutiny coming his way about his personal life. And they're saying he's thinking about putting Ron DeSantis in there for Secretary of Defense. I don't like it. I'm a Floridian. I like Ron DeSantis right where he is. And hopefully he can become a senator after that or something else, not president. I don't like him as president. He doesn't have the personality and he's a little too establishment, but he's on the right side of a lot of issues. So his, he was bad on COVID at first and then he became basically the best. And I hope that he can stay doing stuff locally, but it looks like he might get tapped for Secretary of Defense, which I don't like because I know he's a little hawkish in the Middle East, and I don't like that either, but we'll see. Once I'm doing a whole lot of research, I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far. I'll give you guys that heads up. The one guy that I really did like was Matt Gaetz, and he's gone now. And there's a few others that I like in the positions that he's put them in. Don't trust them for anything else. But once I have my research done, I might have to do it in several parts because it's pretty in-depth. So that's a sneak peek. But we'll see you on the next one. It'll be sometime this coming week. And take care, guys. See you next time. Bye.